You think you have it rough? I mean, seriously? Today you live in this paradise of automatic undo. You just set one little parameter, Oracle basically pats you on the head, and poof, it all just works. It's civilized, it's predictable, it's boring. But before that? Oh, before that.
Before that, undo was pure, uncut chaos. We had this thing called rollback segments, or RBS for short. And let me tell you, they were the most temperamental, fragile, unpredictable part of the entire database. They were the reason old-school DBAs have gray hair and a permanent twitch.
So, let me paint you a picture. The year is 1998, it's December, I'm working at a major bank in New York City, and it's the year-end financial close. You know, that magical week where every single report is suddenly mission-critical, and every executive you've never met somehow has your direct line.
And there was one report to rule them all, the annual interest calculation. We're talking millions of accounts, insane joins, hours and hours of processing. They kicked it off at 6 p.m., we watched it run all night long. The server room was freezing, the coffee was burnt, and then, at 7:55 a.m., literally 5 minutes from the finish line, the screen just stops. Frozen solid.
And there it was. ORA-01555, Snapshot Too Old. The 3 words that could absolutely end a career. This was the DBA's boogeyman, the thing we all had nightmares about. The report wasn't just paused, it was dead.
So the CFO, he marches into the server room. He doesn't walk, he marches. He looks like a man who just saw a ghost, stares right through me and says, "Mr. Ed, if that report isn't on my desk by tomorrow morning, don't bother coming in." Yep, the stakes were pretty clear.
So, what the hell happened? Well, while my giant report was chugging along, reading all these rows, other users were, working, changing things. And their changes overwrote the old versions of the data that my report desperately needed to see. The rollback segments were way too small. They just wrapped around, erased history, and Oracle basically threw its hands up and said, "Sorry, I can't give you a consistent answer anymore. Game over."
So I did what any desperate DBA in the 90s would do. I threw a Hail Mary. I decided I was going to build a monster.
I created this private rollback segment, and I called it RBS_big. We're talking 10 gigabytes of space. Now you have to remember, in 1998, storage was insanely expensive. 10 gigs was an absolutely absurd amount of disk to ask for, but you know what? I did not care. I needed a segment so big it could hold transaction history for hours without even breaking a sweat. It was my only shot. But just creating it? That wasn't enough. No, you had to force Oracle to actually use the thing. And this was the nuclear option, the last resort. I ran the one command that basically tells the database, "Hey, forget everything else you think you know. For this transaction, you are using this one, period."
We restarted the job, and for the next 14 hours, I just sat there. I was like a statue, just watching the screen. Every single time the disk lights flickered, my heart jumped. The other rollback segments were probably thrashing and panicking, but RBS Big, RBS Big was a fortress. It held.
It held the line. At 7:58 a.m., with 2 minutes to spare, it finished. Success. The printer just roared to life, spitting out pages like a machine gun. The CFO got his numbers. And I got to keep my job. Now look, my story, it wasn't unique. Not by a long shot. Oracle didn't just invent automatic undo in some flash of brilliance. No. This was a feature that was born from years of our collective pain. From thousands and thousands of support tickets. From an entire generation of DBAs, like me, completely traumatized by ORA-01555. See, in the early days of Oracle, the database didn't manage its own undo history. We did. We had to create and size these things that were basically tiny circular tape recorders that would just overwrite their own history constantly. It wasn't science, it was a dark art, it was a ritual, it was superstition. And what did that dark art involve? Oh, just a constant barrage of questions with no right answers. How many do you create? How big should they be? Which ones for the long queries? Which for the batch jobs? Which ones for OLTP? Which ones do you keep online? You were guessing all the time, and when you guessed wrong, boom, everything blew up. By the late 90s, it wasn't just my bank anymore. Everyone was hitting this wall. Oracle support was absolutely drowning in ORA-01555 cases. Customers were furious. DBAs were burning out. And Oracle's own engineers knew the architecture had reached its absolute limit. Something had to change. So during the Oracle 8i days, they quietly started working on a real fix. It was this hidden, experimental feature called System Managed Undo. And look, you'd have to be insane to actually use it in production.
But it was the first sign that they were finally listening to our screams. And then came Oracle 9.9. This was it. This was the turning point. This is when Oracle officially introduced automatic undo management, which was a complete redesign of how the database handled read consistency. And for DBAs everywhere, this was the beginning of the end of our long, collective nightmare.
I mean, the difference was just night and day. We went from juggling dozens of these fragile, manually managed segments to having a single, self-managing undo tablespace. We went from a dark art based on guesswork and prayer to a single, predictable parameter. Oracle was finally taking control, so we didn't have to anymore.
Think about that for a second. All of that complexity, all that guesswork, all those late nights, it all got boiled down to one single parameter: undo_retention. You just had to tell Oracle, hey, I need about 15 hours of history, and the database would do everything in its power to make that happen. It was a revolution.
And the change happened fast. By Oracle 10G, automatic undo wasn't just recommended, it was the default. Manual rollback segments were deprecated, hidden, and eventually just scrubbed from the documentation entirely. Oracle wanted them gone, forgotten, like a bad memory they wanted to pretend never happened.
Now, to be clear, the error didn't disappear completely. You can still get an ORA-01555 today, but the fix, it's on a different planet. Before, it was a high-stakes, high-complexity panic attack. Now, you just increase the tablespace size or bump up the retention time. It's predictable, it's stable, it's boring in the best possible way.
So, the next time you're digging through some ancient, crusty old code and you find that command, stop. Before you laugh, before you mock it, you need to understand exactly what it is you're looking at.
It's a relic. It's a fossil from a primitive era, a time when DBAs didn't just manage the database, we fought it. With our bare hands, tooth and nail, every single day. That little line of code, that's a war medal from that fight.
So don't delete it, don't mock it, frame it, hang it on your wall. Let it be a reminder of how good you have it, and of the battles that were fought so you could have a nice, quiet, blessedly boring day at the office.